this month the theme is from hope to faith to trust. And I actually didn't come up with this theme title. Someone in our congregation did, because I asked the question, anybody have any suggestions or ideas on something you'd like for a Sunday topic or a Sunday theme? Because I like to do at least 2, 3, usually 4 weeks in a series on a theme, because it gives us an opportunity to build the power in the words that is that sequential lifting of our consciousness. So that's how it came to be. And I want to start today, because we did a roundtable discussion here last week, which was referred to a few minutes ago. And those are always powerful. I love to do those. They're spontaneous. They come from you. And we have more of a dialogue, similar to Wednesday nights and Thursday afternoons, but more focused on particular topics. So I'm happy to do that. However, I always go back to the more formal presentation, because you deserve to have a thoughtful, researched series of talks each month that bring you something to take with you for the week. So anytime you have a theme, a monthly theme or a weekly topic that you would like explored, happy to do that. So I'm going to be talking about, in that order, from hope to faith to trust. And I'd like you to think about that this week. Why in that order? And what does that mean as this unfolds? But to begin with, I want to talk about today's topic, which is recognizing authentic action. And I'd like to begin talking about that with a quote from Sogyal Rinpoche, who is a Tibetan Buddhist monk. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with his name, if not his writings. Most of us, me included, learned that the word Rinpoche translates as teacher. However, as I reviewed his book, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, which I have reviewed more than once, I have to tell you, I've taught from it in ministerial training classes, I discovered that the actual translation of the word Rinpoche is the precious one. Isn't that lovely? For those of us who teach in whatever venue we teach, the precious one. So here's the quote I want to share with you from this precious one, Sogyal Rinpoche. Active laziness consists of cramming our lives with compulsive activity. So there's no time to confront the real issues. Our lives seem to live us, possess their own bizarre momentum, and carry us away. In the end, we feel we have no control or choice over them. Ever known anybody like that? Ever been anybody like that? Yeah. Well, personally, I can speak to that. That's a major reason for my relocation to Hawaii and to this island. And in the 5 years that I've been here, I recognize and am in gratitude daily for that universal nudge to be here. And that universal nudge started many years before I actually came here permanently. But it was persistent and eventually recognized. So the question to ponder as we open up to demonstrating authentic action in our lives Why do I hang on to things that have no ultimate value in my life? Oh boy, how much time do I have left this morning to answer that question? How much time do you have to answer that question in your life? You know, it's kind of like storage units. Everybody know what storage units are? Okay. You know, some of them are side by side, right? On the mainland sometimes, they're story by story. I kid you not. I have seen 9, 10-story high storage units on the mainland. And they're not just up. I mean, they're out and they're up. You have to ride an elevator to take your precious stuff to and from your storage unit. So, have any of you watched those programs on television now about people who go around to the sales of the contents of those storage units which have been abandoned or the heirs want no part of? Oh, this is big stuff on the mainland now. But for whatever reason, the contents are being sold off. If you've ever watched those programs, and if you haven't, it's worth an educational experience to do so. You'll see that it's not always that the contents have no monetary value, that they have been abandoned or the heirs have no interest in them. Often they do have monetary value to somebody, somewhere. It's just that often when something is put away in a dark corner, a dark recess, it's because it has no current use for its owner. And over a period of time, it's forgotten about, or its size prevents usage, or who knows? I know people who sometimes go and visit their storage units. Seriously, but they don't take anything out of them. It's like they go and count the beads, you know? Just visit them. I've experienced that. Not personally, because I put my stuff in until I had a house to take it out and put it in. But I saw people doing that. And I thought, isn't that fascinating? And sometimes, more often for some of us, less often for others, we have thoughts, ideas, patterns, lifestyles that are similar to these storage units. Sometimes we're on autopilot, so to speak, with the way we do things, with the repetition of things we do or don't do, the avoidance of things we don't wish to do. And sometimes this is also true in our thought processes. Compulsive activity, as Rinpoche calls it, is not only physical, but sometimes mental and or emotional. We hold on to outdated ideas, old emotions, dusty conceptions and perceptions. Often they end up in dark recesses, just like those storage units, and we forget about them or ignore them at the conscious level. And though we think in the moment that we're taking authentic action in our life experiences, we may be more controlled by what we don't consciously recognize than what we do. So I'm going to take a little detour right at the moment. I want to talk about the alternative to a storage unit in modern America. When I lived in Laguna Niguel, had a large home which had a large 2-car garage.
You're talking.
Not yet. And I lived in a homeowners association area where one of the CC&Rs was that, number one, you needed to keep your garage doors closed unless you were going in or out. and that there was no parking of cars other than momentarily, so to speak, but not permanently, in the driveway or on the street in front of your home. And some of the people who live there adhered to that. I had a neighbor across the street, lovely people, had a 3-car garage. And let me tell you what was in the 3-car garage, because I saw it every day, because the garage door was almost always open. On one side, there was an old junker car with no wheels on it. It was up on blocks. It was there when I moved in. It was there when I moved out. I lived there 5 years, and that thing never moved. On the other side of that 3-car garage was stuff. You know, important stuff, right? If you could have walked through it, you might have been able to find the important stuff. It was just stuff. Piled up boxes, things. Outside, on the driveway, a BMW 735 automobile, a Mercedes-Benz sedan, and out in the street, a great big SUV, like an Escalade or an Excursion, whatever. There was about $150,000 worth of automobiles on the driveway and in the street. In the garage, maybe $500 worth of materials. Think about that. It was there when I moved there, and it was there when I left, and so were the cars. And I don't know whether they were notified, fined, whatever. I didn't complain. I'd rather look at the automobiles anyway. You know, it's nice to associate with people who have nice automobiles like that. But isn't that an interesting mental comparison? I know people who have not 1 storage unit, but 2 storage units, sometimes 3 storage units. Isn't that interesting? For most people, the combination of those storage units is more square feet than where they live. So think about this, not that I'm chiding you if you have storage units, I don't know whether you do or not, but rather from the standpoint of how am I carrying material in my thought processes? We've talked about the balance and order and harmony of the universe before, and how we can replicate that in our lives in a variety of ways. So if you have 3 storage units, whether they are actual physical storage units, or maybe more than 1 storage unit in your thought processes that you might want to take a look at and perhaps do some refiling, some removal, allow some stuff that you've forgotten about completely, that may be some wonderful, wonderful memorabilia or junk, and allow that to process, even as you would go to your storage unit if you have one, and decide whether or not there's some stuff in there that could better circulate out in the universe for people to use than sitting there costing you $100, $150 a month rent for how many years? So, some thought. So now let me go back to talking about recognizing authentic action, maybe in a little different light here. I want to define for you the definition of authentic action. It's the natural consequences of discerning things as they truly are. It's the final step in a 4-step process of look, see, tell the truth, and take authentic action. And we'll talk more about this as the month unfolds. Look, see, tell the truth, and take authentic action. So there's two types of authentic action. The first is that it clears away unfinished business from our path so that we can proceed in an unobstructed manner. And the second is authentic action which brings us toward and implements our goals, our choices, our intentions, our aspirations. The best of our choices. And the difference between driven behavior and authentic action, driven behavior is what comes out of self-limiting inner dialogue, of stuffing or ignoring our true and trusted values. Authentic action is the result of putting your attention on what you really choose in life, what's important to you, what brings you joy, what brings you prosperity, what brings you health, what brings you a creative expression and love. And in directing or focusing your energies on that, and allowing yourself to realize those in real time. Driven behavior is energy draining, folks. When you find yourself exhausted, drained, even when you believe you are doing good work, and when you believe you're doing good work, you're doing good work. But when you are exhausted, when you are drained from it, it's driven behavior. Authentic action is invigorating. It's mobilizing. You feel re-energized. And you are. Because you are circulating your energy, not just dumping it or directing it or driving it, but you are in that law of circulation of giving and receiving. I want to share with you, as we come to a close here, a really interesting quote from George Bernard Shaw. "This is the true joy in my life," he said. "To be used for a purpose I myself recognize as a mighty one. I choose to be a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world has not devoted itself to making me happy. I am of the opinion," he said, "that my life belongs to the whole community of humankind, and as long as I live, it's my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, because the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake," he went on to say. "Life is no brief candle to me. It's a splendid force which I get to hold up for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before I hand it on to the future generations." You know, I was so impressed when I read that statement, because I've always thought of George Bernard Shaw as a kind of a sharp-tongued, judgmental smart aleck. And then I had the privilege of reading these words and experiencing them in a manner in which I know he would have delivered them, describing the authentic action in his life. And I was so inspired by how God was expressing, even through him. So it helped me to remember that authentic action is God. It's God expressing through me, through you, through all of us. And though God is also being expressed when I'm being lazy or procrastinating or unfocused or driven, that's at the level of my consciousness for the moment. So I'm very sure that for me, I'm expressing it at a much higher level when I'm being authentic. And I'm equally sure that revealing my true values by being authentic makes life a great deal easier, happier, healthier, exciting, satisfying. How about you? Would it be all right if revealing your true values by being authentic made your life easier? Then so it is.
So it is.